Good morning, I'm Sara Silver, and today I'm going to show you the SilverLeaf cultivation module. First, let's go ahead and open up our role center. Here you'll see I'm logged in as a cultivation worker, and I'm presented with information that's important to the cultivation area. For example, I see how many immature plant batches we have. We have 55 right now, and we have 24 plant batches that are in the mature phase and 9 harvest batches. If I click down on any one of these, I can see the detail of the batch. And I can see, because I'm in the mature plants, I can see the specific tags of every plant in this batch. For my demo today, I'm going to be working in a Metrc state. So here you can see I've got the tag information for each of my plants in this batch. If I go back to my home screen, there's 24 batches, and you'll see that's 2,154 plants, each uniquely identified. My immature plant batches are identified just by batch because in my state, we don't need to tag the individual plants. As I scroll down, I get some insights about what my expected harvest is. So for example, here I can see by week, the number of grams I'm expected to harvest in each week. I can change this to look by month. I've got some bad sample data in here, but you get the idea. You wouldn't have grows that go from December to August, but I can see in my little pretend world how many of each strain, how many grams of each strain I'm expecting to harvest in each month. Again, if I click down, I can get into that cultivation batch and see the details of that. This next chart, the cultivation inventory by phase, shows us how our plants are broken down by the different stages. So up here we saw we had 2,154 plants in our mature phase. Well, here's how it breaks down by stage within that phase, and again, by strain. Finally, down here, I can see my inventory by each of my rooms. I've also got a PowerBI report. Our solution is built on Microsoft Dynamics Business Central, which is part of the Microsoft platform. And so we have access to all kinds of reports. Here's a PowerBI report that we created that breaks down our cultivation by different room, by bin and strain, what we have going on, and what we expect our yield to be. So let's go ahead and look at a few things in the setup that show us how we get to these numbers, how we can get to that yield. I'm going to go into the setup area, and first I'm going to show you what are called our location grow types. Within each of our facilities, we might have multiple types of grows. So here you can see in grow 1, I have a greenhouse, indoor and outdoor grow. In grow 2, which is another physical address, different location, I have greenhouse and an indoor. So you can set up what types of grows you have, and you can set various defaults. A routing indicates how long each step takes. And this is my immature routing number. Over here, I've got my mature routing. Now I happen to use the same one over and over again, but maybe in my outdoor, grow 1 outdoor, it takes me more days to grow a plant than it does in my greenhouse and my indoor. So obviously those would be different, but I've just used the same one over and over again. If we go to look at that, click down, I can see the actual steps on this routing. Oh, Rain, that didn't work. Let's skip that. So we'll just end with where I said we can have different routings for each one. So I've set up my different location grow types. Then I can set up what's called my grow defaults. I think this is maybe the secret sauce of our solution. So let's sort this by grow 1. So if I'm working in grow 1, I can see here, my first row tells me that if I'm growing plants from clones, and I'm going to expect my biomass harvest to be 550 grams per plant, or my wet weight. And then again, I can identify the number of days it's going to be an immature plant, and what my mortality rate is in the immature phase. I can also set up what my mature plant routing is, the number of days it's going to be in veg and flower. And then as I scroll across, I can also see what my mature mortality rate is. So if I plant 100 clones, I expect I'm going to lose 20 in the immature phase, and then 5% of the remaining, so I'll have 80 left, and then I'm going to lose 4 more plants in the mature phase. And then I'm assuming 550 grams per plant. So my expected harvest is going to be the 76 times 550. If I go to the next row though, I can see if I'm growing with seeds instead of clones, I'm expecting my biomass to be 400 instead of 550. And again, I could have different routings if I wanted to for each step to identify different timeframes. Finally, on this third line, I'm saying, well, if I'm growing clones of Northern Lights, I expect my biomass to be 600, and I'm going to get a manicure of 200 grams. And that down here, I can see I'm going to have 2 manicures of 100 grams each. So what I've done is I've said by exception, Northern Lights is a little bit different. So if I'm growing from clones that are not Northern Lights, it will use this row. If they are Northern Lights, it will use this one to predict my yield. So we can manage by exceptions. You might have 50 strains and 6 of them are a little different, but 5 of that, or what did I say, 50 strains, 6 of them are different. So 54 of them are going to be using this row, and then I can put in the individual strains and their differences and set up different routings for each of those. Those numbers are what then get us to these predicted yields that we're expecting. So now let's go ahead and start a growing process. I'm going to go into the immature plants. Here I can see the list of all the immature batches I have in my grow right now. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new batch. And we're going to use critical mass today. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the bin prop 2. A bin could be a table, a cart. Think of it as a subsection within your room of where you're doing this grow. I'm going to indicate we're using mother plants for our clones. And again, I mentioned I'm in a metric state. I'm going to go ahead and choose my starting metric tag. I'm going to go ahead and fill in this bottom. At this point, I can scan the mother tags of the plants I'm using. I don't have any barcodes printed, so I'm just going to go ahead and choose the mother we're pulling from. Let's go ahead and say we're going to start with 80 clones from this mother. I could add more rows and take clones from other mothers and it will break them all out. I've set up my plant batch size to be 100. So I'm going to get, for every 100, it will create a new plant batch. I'm doing just 80, so we'll be in one batch. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and that will create our plant batch. So now you'll see down here at the bottom, I've got a new batch of critical mass. And as I scroll across, I can see that I have 80 in this batch. As I click on the line, you'll see here on the right the different dates that things are expected to happen. So we've got that routing, which I mentioned previously, that has 15 days in propagation, and then 30 days in veg, and then however many days in flower that would calculate out to be. So let's now go ahead and assume we've had a little bit of some mortality. Some of these aren't growing very well of our 80. I'm going to go ahead and go into plant destruction. Since this is happening during the immature phase, I haven't identified the plants individually, so I don't need to give the specific tags that we're destroying. So let's go ahead and just destroy 15 of them. And we'll say that it's on March 18th that that's happening. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And this has created what's called a destruction document. This is our audit trail of what waste we have that needs to be reported through our state track and trace system. So this will send to Metrc. I'm going to go ahead and choose how we're going to dispose of it. I'll say mulch. I can give it a reason code, and these are user definable. I'll say slow growth. And now our witnesses have to sign. I have mine set for 2 witness signatures are necessary. So I'm going to have Mary and Tom sign for it. This signing works great on a tablet, or if you have a little signature pad. I could put in some comments if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and just post this destruction. So now this will communicate with the state, and now you'll notice my batch is only, if I scroll across, 65. So now let's fast forward and it's March 28th, and we're ready to move this into the next phase. I'm going to go to the vegetative phase. To do that, I'm going to choose change phase on my menu. Now I have another video where I show you how we can do this with what's called the scan worksheet. So you can do all of this on a tablet. So after you understand how it works in the system, you can watch that video to see some ways to make it a little more mobile with a barcode scanner. I'm going to go ahead now and move my plants into our veg area. So let's go ahead and go in bedroom 1, and we'll choose what table we're going to put these on. I'm going to go ahead and put them on table 3, and I'm going to choose my plant tags. Again, I'm in a Metrc state, so I'm going to identify my first tag, and it will then assign 65 tags, 1 to each of my plants. So I'm going to go ahead, this all looks great, and hit OK. Now, if we were only moving some today to veg and we're going to do more tomorrow, we could break this up into 2 groups, but I'm going to move them all together. Now it's moving these into the mature phase. So on my dashboard on that home screen, I've got down a batch that's now going to move down an immature batch, and it's going to move to the mature phase. So here you'll see that batch is no longer here. This is another one I did. So let's now move into the plant batches. And if I scroll to the bottom of all my plant batches, here's the plant batch we were working with the same batch number. By the way, in our setup, you have some control over how you assign the names of these batches. So now we know we're in veg, it's March 13th, and we're here until April 12th. If I open this to see my batch, I can see all the plants in the batch. So here's all 65 of the tag numbers. Maybe a few of these are meant to be mothers, so I'm going to go ahead and select which tags are going to be mothers. Again, in our scan worksheet, you could just scan those. And I'm going to hit Make Mother Plant. I'm going to move these to the mother room, and it's on, let's say it's, I have to always cheat and check my dates. Let's say it's 3/25 that we're doing that. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. I could also have some destruction. So maybe a few of these are also growing slow. I can select these or scan them in the scan worksheet and go ahead and get a destruction document. Our destruction document now is a little bit different. This destruction document is going to identify by tag which plants we destroyed. Because again, our state track and trace system already knows which tags we're using, so we now need to remove these tags from our grow. The rest of it works the same. We choose our waste method, and we choose our reason code, and then we can go ahead and sign for it. And we'll post that. So now we have fewer plants between the mothers that we had, as well as the mothers plus the destruction, we're down to 58. I could now move these into a different room. If I want to move them all, I can click the movement button, or I could click some of them and choose which room we want to move them to. And we'll go ahead and move these to a different room. So let's move these. They were in veg 1. I'm going to move them to veg 2 and put them on table 5. So now it's created a separate batch of those. As we see down the bottom, we've got 53 and 5. So everything is traceable. Everything's communicating with Metrc where it is. When I'm ready to move on to the next phase, I just hit the change phase again. It's April 12th, and we can now move these into the flower area. So I'll choose my flower room and the tables I'm going to put these on. And hit OK. So I can kind of shepherd my batch through all the steps of my grow process. Eventually, we're going to be ready to harvest this batch. So let's go ahead and move that on June 11th. Change phase. And we'll go ahead and move this into oh, I chose the wrong batch. Okay. Let's go ahead now and harvest this. I'm going to go ahead and select my flower batch and go ahead and choose change phase. And now I'm going to move it into my dry and cure, and I need to weigh my batch. So now we have some options. Depending on the requirements of your state, you might be able to weigh the whole batch, and then the system will average out the weight of each plant. Or you could enter the weight of individual plants. Of course, we have a scale integration, so you could scan the tag and pull the weight from a scale. I'm going to do a little cheat here. I'm just going to say 53 times 580. In our ERP, we can do quick math in a cell like you can in Excel. So notice they went ahead and had 53 plants, so it assigned them the weight of 580 each. So we're just going to average today. So I put in my total batch size of 30,740, and it pulled in an average weight. The date is, let's say, June 15th that we're doing this. And we're going to now output this into our dry area. And I'll go ahead and that's all good and hit OK. It's confirming my weight, and I'll go ahead and say yes. So now we have our dry area. This is now moving it out of looking at individual plants. Now we have one bulk weight for that product, the 30,000 grams. So here I see my harvest batch. And if I open this up, I can see the weight of that batch of 30,740 grams. As we move into cure 5 days later, again, my routing indicated I have 5 days in dry, and now I'm ready to move to cure on June 20th. I can change phase, and now our system will be tracking the moisture loss and any weight, any waste that you have. So let's say now it's been 5 days and our batch weighs 25,000 grams. The system calculated that we've had 5,740 grams of moisture loss. Well, actually, we went in there and we pulled off a bunch of twigs and cleaned it up a bit, and that weighed 3,000 grams. So now notice my moisture loss is 2,740. Because I do have waste, I need to create a new destruction document. So I'm going to move this into my cure room, and it's June 20th, and it will create a new destruction document. I'm not going to go through the destruction process. You've seen that twice now, so I won't go ahead and do that. But now notice our weight is the 25,000 grams, and we're in cure. We're getting ready to move to packaging. We can change phase again, and we'll go ahead and put what our weight is today, and let's say it's 17,000, and our waste weighed 4,000. So notice we've had 4,000 in moisture loss. I know your numbers won't be quite as round as mine. I'm going to move into the packaging area and choose what workstation we're going to be at. And it's now July 4th. And we'll hit OK. And so now we're ready to actually package our product. We're going to probably do some more trimming, and we might also do grading. I'm ready now to go through the packaging process. So I can change phase again, or I could hit create packages. And it's July 4th, easy date to remember. And it's asking where we're going to put our finished packages. We'll put those in our vault. And it's asking us for the weight of all of our waste. So I'm going to say that that weighed 3,200 grams. And now the software is asking us what we output. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of grading. I've got some big bud, and I'm going to choose now a package tag that I want to assign to it. You can identify these tag types are user definable. So I have plant and package. You might have a bulk tag type. So how much big bud did we get? We'll say 12,000 grams of big bud. And then I'll just go into bulk trim. We might have had some small bud. We might have had all kinds of whatever your grading points are. And let's say that this weighed 800. So now our moisture loss is 1,000. And I can go ahead and post this. So I've now got my finished packages all tagged. I can print bartender labels. It's confirming that my moisture loss was 1,000. And do I want to confirm that? And I'll say yes. And this is over the normal 5%, but that's okay. And I'll say yes. So now this product has moved into our testing phase. You can watch another video about SilverLeaf to see about our quality process, how you can create samples from this batch to send to the lab for testing. And then your product will be quarantined until those lab results come back. So thanks for watching our video about our SilverLeaf cultivation module.